Hello, everyone. My name is Jessie Paquette, and I am the CEO and founder of Virtual Oasis Solutions. And I am extremely excited today because I am here with Monica D. Vance. And Monica is a licensed mental therapist as well as a talented and very gifted writer and speaker. She has worked in multiple human service settings, such as childcare centers, a home visiting program for pregnant and parenting teenagers, youth mentoring programs, and community mental health services. Monica, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful welcome. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to have you here. We are approaching the holiday season, and one of the things that a lot of people may be dealing with right now, and even outside of the holiday season, is old mindsets. And I know that's something that you specialize in as a therapist and also as a writer and a speaker. So, what are some of the old mindsets that people may need to get rid of in order to take care of their mental health during the holidays?
It's an awesome question. So I would say one thing that's really coming to my mind is allowing yourself to grieve. I think a lot of people get into like patterns of avoidance during the holiday season. So I think denial or avoidance could be like an old mindset that people develop during the holiday season. Oh, I miss my mom, I miss my dad, I miss my pet, I miss so and so person that passed away, but no, 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 I'm just not going to deal with that. But it's actually important to actually deal with those feelings and those thoughts as they come up during the holiday season instead of trying to like rush through it.
So, what are some practical tips that you would recommend people can implement going into the holidays to make sure that their mental health is being taken care of?
I would say making sure that you know your limits and your boundaries for yourself. I think especially as we think about the holidays and getting together with family, sometimes there's the pressure of I have to go to like my mama's house, my grandmother's house, my daddy's house. I have to go to all these different houses in one day. You don't have to do all of that. Like do what you can and make sure that you pace yourself. Also making sure that you're telling people like what your needs are in the moment. So like going back to like the grief stuff, I think if you're dealing with a grief reminder, like I miss my dad, like I think it's okay to share that with someone, to share it with people. Like I might seem a little off or funky during this holiday season. It's because I'm still processing through or dealing with some reminders of my or memories of my dad or my mom or my pet. Um, I think the holiday season is a great time to use like assertive communication, which isn't easy for people. I think there's a tendency to be passive or just to not say anything at all, but this is like the time to stand up for your needs and your boundaries.
And you mentioned the importance of sharing with people where you're at, what you may be dealing with. How do you deal with people who may not be understanding or may not be used to you being assertive and sharing what your needs are? How can people navigate that?
That is so tricky. Yeah, so I actually like recently posted about this on like my IG page. So I think like sometimes you just have to be like a broken record. Like let's say you're at the Thanksgiving table and someone's asking you, why aren't you married yet? Why don't you have kids yet? Why don't you have this yet? Why don't you have that yet? And you're saying, I don't want to talk about this right now. And they keep asking you that. At this point, you have a few choices. You can keep just saying, I don't want to talk about this, or you can excuse yourself from the table altogether and say, I need to take a break. And I think too, limiting how much time you spend around people. If you know specific family members or friends aren't going to respect your boundaries, you don't have to be around them for like big amounts of time. Maybe spend a half hour at their house, or maybe just not see them at all. But I think sometimes we forget that we have the choice. Like surrounding who we have to like associate with. Like I think most people that are watching this like are going to be adults, and I think as adults we have much more control and power over our lives than we realize. So if there's somebody that's not understanding, you don't have to have them in your environment.
I think it's very easy to get into the mindset of feeling obligated and wanting to maybe people please a little bit. And then there's also family traditions. What are some strategies that you recommend with just dealing with the demands of gift giving, family gatherings, holiday planning? I think a lot of us, especially business owners, or just very ambitious people, think we can do it all. And the truth is, maybe we can do it all, but just not all at once. So do you have any strategies that can help with that?
Yes, I'm gonna start with something very, very basic. So before we even get into like really concrete things, this is concrete too, but like thinking about like, are you sleeping? Are you eating? Are you taking time to like rest physically and emotionally during this season? Even outside of the season, I think people need to think about eating habits and sleeping habits and how they're recharging, especially during this season, in order for you to think clearly and to do all those boundary setting. Your mind needs to be clear. And if you're functioning on like an hour of sleep, if you're not eating well, like you're not gonna think or be functional enough to set boundaries with people or plan like, okay, I'm gonna do this on this day. I'm gonna go to this store on this day. So I think basic needs first. Like we need to make sure you're taking care of those things first. And then mapping out like how do you want to spend your holiday season? Like where are you going for Thanksgiving? Where are you going for Christmas or like whatever other holidays I'm not assuming everybody celebrates Thanksgiving and Christmas, but whatever other holidays that you celebrate during that season, mapping out like what you're doing. Mapping out finances, I think, is important. I think it's really there's a struggle or a challenge like I have to buy gifts for everybody and their mama. You don't have to buy gifts for everybody, and you might have to be upfront with people and tell them like, this year I can only buy for a few people, or this year I'm only buying for like my sister's pet, this year I'm only buying for like my nieces and nephews. Like being very strategic on writing a list of these are the people that I'm buying gifts for, and that's it. Like I think everything always comes down to like limit and boundary setting and like what you have control of. If you have a limited amount of money to spend, figure out, okay, these are the people or things that I can spend money on.
That's so good. I think I needed to hear that, especially just being someone who loves to give gifts. And I'm sure there's others out there. Even just with time, time can be limited with the holiday season. For those people who are growing or maybe aren't used to being assertive or communicating their needs, I'm sure that may feel a little uncomfortable or awkward. What are some things that people can maybe tell themselves to kind of encourage themselves to, take that step and communicate? And also, do you have any tips for after they communicate? Sometimes people may get in their head.
When we're growing in a skill such as assertiveness, you're going to feel uncomfortable because it's like, so for some of you that don't know, like I go to the gym like 3 times a week, and like when you're like building muscle and you're going to the gym, like sometimes you feel uncomfortable and you have to like push through it. Like when you're lifting that weight, and you're like, but you just have to keep going. And it's the same with like assertive communication. Like you're gonna feel extremely uncomfortable. You're gonna feel cringy. You're gonna feel like I yelled at that person even though you didn't yell at that person. And other people around you might not be super responsive to you because they're not used to you being assertive. But just knowing that it's a practice, it's a skill, and you have to keep doing it. And it feels weird at first, but that's what it's going to feel like for a while until you become like comfortable and competent in it. And you're going to have those like rackets or in social work practice, we call it like distortions. So you're going to have different lines of thinking where you think like, oh, I'm a mess. Oh, I shouldn't have said that to that person. Oh, I hurt their feelings. And you're going to have all these different thoughts happening. But like reminding yourself that you're worth taking care of yourself and your needs. I think a lot of passive assertiveness, or not assertiveness, a lot of passive communication goes back to like self-worth. Like, do you see yourself as worthy of standing up for yourself and your own needs? So reminding yourself of like who you are and what you're worthy of, and that you are worthy of like taking care of yourself.
So basically, what you're saying is, I heard you mention the word practice and that analogy, which I love about like you going to the gym and how it's uncomfortable, especially at first. So, what you're saying is the more people practice it, it's going to feel more comfortable.
You might not want to hear that it takes practice, but just be gentle with yourself and just tell yourself it's going to take some time to feel comfortable in this.
Especially, I think during the holidays, I think people need to be even more gentle with themselves because of the hustle and the bustle. In the moment, how can people let go of the idea of having that quote unquote perfect holiday and focus on what truly matters?
I think perfection, the word perfect or perfectionism is like relative. Like, really think about it. What is perfect to you? I mean, like, you just being able to like get the turkey out and get all these different side meals or side foods out, that's good enough. Like, I think reevaluating what is good enough for you. I think a lot of folks have extremely high standards for themselves and what they want the holiday to look like. But like, let's say you host Thanksgiving and someone comes over and they're like, "Oh, this is great," and you didn't think it was great. Take that compliment because I think we're much harder on ourselves than other people are. And so giving yourself like that grace and recognizing like you just hosting Thanksgiving or you just hosting whatever holiday you celebrate, it's just good enough. Like you're doing good enough.
I love that. Recognizing what is going right, it seems like, and that just reminds me of gratitude. So I think that's one of the reasons why I love especially Thanksgiving and how the foundation of it is gratitude and being thankful. So what place does gratitude have in having a healthy mental um, outlook?
Gratitude is crucial. And I was smiling because I've been doing like this gratitude focus or challenge this month. And so gratitude is really like I say, and everybody has a different way they define it, but for me, it's looking at like the small joys or delights or like looking at the things that you have in your life and like being grateful and being thankful and appreciative of what you have. I think when we're going through a lot of mental health stressors or we've gone through a lot of traumatic experiences, that can cloud how we see the world, and you can feel like nothing has ever happened well in my life. And I get it. Like, if you've gone through a lot of like complex traumatic experiences, or you're going through a lot of anxiety or depression, it's gonna feel like life is never good for you. But if you take a step like back, you can find at least one person that has treated you well, or one experience that you had, maybe at the park or at a concert or with a friend. There's at least one thing. And I think capitalizing on that and thinking about one thing and then go to another thing and then go to another thing. And like that can really sort of like rewire the way that you see the world. And that can really help you have a healthier outlook on the world. And it takes time. And I think sometimes when we talk about gratitude, people are like, oh, this is like toxic positivity. And like, I don't think it is. I really think it's being able to renew or rewire our minds.
I know you mentioned a gratitude challenge this month. I'd love for you to share a little bit about that as well, maybe how people can participate in that if they'd like to.
Yeah. So I love the idea of like gratitude journals. So like if you have a journal, like writing down each day or each week things that you're grateful for, or even verbally saying like, I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful that I have something to eat. And so on my IG, on my like social media pages, I've been as much as I can, like every day, every other day, like saying something that I'm grateful for and doing it in terms of like a reel or a post or my stories and saying, I'm grateful for blah, blah, blah. Like I had this reel that I don't know how it popped off, but it was literally like, I'm grateful for scrambled eggs and iced coffee. And it got like, I don't know, 16,000 views, which I don't understand how that happened. But
Wow.
it's just like a little egg reel that I call it, and I just something as simple as I'm grateful for scrambled eggs. And I asked people like, what are you grateful for? So on each story, reel, post, I say what I'm grateful for, and then I ask other people what they're grateful for. And like, it's been nice to hear other people share like what they're grateful for. And I think it promotes like community because sometimes we might not want to like initially say, I'm grateful for this because it's a new practice. But if someone else is asking you what you're grateful for, you're like, oh, let me think about this. Let me actually reflect.
That's so cool. So if people want to participate in this challenge, we'll be sure to, include your a link to your social media platforms because I think it is always helpful too when you are looking at content or connected with people who are grateful. That kind of feeds gratitude, I
Yeah.
think. And you had mentioned like community, and I want to ask you, how important is community with having, good mental health?
Community is crucial. It's like probably after making sure that you're eating and sleeping and doing all the things, like making sure that you have some sort of community. And when I say community, like I think sometimes people think like I have to have 10,000 friends. I actually would caution you to not have 10,000 friends. Like you need to have like a solid core, like maybe five people that you can name, and whether that's like a gym community, a church community, a work community, any sort of like community could be like a support group, like having a few people that you can feel like you're your authentic self with. You can go to these people when you're having challenges. These people can support you and sort of be your cheerleader, but also can kind of point out things that like you need to work on. Because I always, that saying like you can't do life alone. You really cannot do life alone. And I think for people who are like artists or like business people, entrepreneurs, you spend a lot of time by yourself. And like that's fine that you're doing that, but also making sure that you make room to be around other people who can kind of like spur you on and encourage you to do like big things. Especially if you're an ambitious person or a type A person or an entrepreneur or an artist or creative, I think we can be our worst critics. And I'm saying this from experience as someone that identifies as a creative and someone who's highly ambitious. We can be very hard on ourselves, but really working through each day to remind yourself that I'm like reminding yourself of who you are, what you do well at, and that it's usually not as I don't want to say terrible, but sometimes you think you're like this like worm, you're a scum of the earth, all these kinds of things, but you're actually much more beautiful and lovely than you realize. So reminding yourself of like who you are and those qualities that like make you.
Well, that is a great way to end this. I want to thank you again, Monica, for being here, and hopefully we can do this again in the future. So we'll be sure to link all of Monica's platforms in this video in the notes section, and be sure to connect with her for more tips and information on how to manage your mental health, not just for the holidays, but just doing life in general. As a business owner, as a person, mindset is everything. And just want to wish everyone a very happy holidays, and we will see you again soon.